So let's dive right in. We're going to start with Jen. And Jen says, I am going to talk to a reporter tomorrow about a statewide program that serves youth I work with. I know staff at the statewide program, and I have some reservations about the way they are running it. I would like to be thoughtful and humanize these individuals rather than go into blame and shame mode with them and how the program has turned out. But I also want to be truthful. I would like some help with language to be kind, firm, and truthful. Hi, Jen. Well, say it to me in not kind, not what firm or whatever. Say it to me raw. Say it's raw, and then
Oh.
let's see where that takes us and how we might finesse it a little bit.
So if you were one of the staff, thank you.
Yes.
If you were
Yes.
one of the staff who I've had conversations with, I would
Hmm.
say, I have told you what
Hmm.
you needed to do. You didn't listen. The
Hmm.
application process sucks. Your
Hmm.
response time sucks. Your
Hmm.
willingness to be team members sucks. And who are the individuals who are suffering? The young people who this program was intended to help to begin with. We have offered our support and our help repeatedly,
Hmm.
and you just want to do it alone.
Hmm.
And being very honest, you have completely fucked this process up.
Hmm.
Very honest.
Hmm.
I've offered my help, I have helped you, and yet it doesn't seem to have made a difference.
Hmm.
Why
Wonderful.
aren't you willing?
Okay, there we go. So we end with what you're wanting is to understand what's getting in the way of doing it differently,
Hmm.
right?
Yes.
And so let's parse this out. That's beautiful, Jen. So let's parse out first the charge. I want to acknowledge the anger. I want to acknowledge the frustration. I want to acknowledge how much in how you were saying it originally, I can feel how much this matters to you, that it feels really, really important to you. And there's a sense of urgency about this. And there's a sense of conviction about, if I'm translating that in my own mind as that's coming in, I'm thinking to myself, oh my goodness, this is really important to Jen. Something is not working. She's not understanding why it isn't working. She sees all of these ways that she's been trying to help, and it's not leading to meaningful change. And she wants to find out some information and also drive some change in this situation. That's what's coming through to me. Is that right?
Yes, absolutely. I appreciate the way that you have helped me connect first to myself
Hmm.
because I have skipped often that step to go to, well, let me see how I can say this to the reporter in a way that makes everybody nice and no one get angry with me.
Hmm.
And the first connection is, yes, I am both angry and so sad that
Yeah.
this is not available. I mean, this program could change lives. The nonprofit I started is
Hmm.
completely in alignment with what this program's doing. And I've seen how
Hmm.
what our work has done has changed lives, and I know it will change lives.
Hmm.
And so the heartbreak of these young people to come to them and say, we could use this support and service and then to get the exact experience that these young people have gotten
Hmm.
again and again.
Hmm.
They've wanted something. Finally, they speak up for themselves.
Hmm.
And then the doors get slammed in their faces.
Hmm.
And I am, yes, I'm so enraged by it because it
Hmm.
seems so obvious.
Hmm.
And yet I recognize it's a difficult process. They are doing the best they can. They want to help these young people.
Hmm.
They do. I do believe that.
Hmm. Hmm.
I'm just so frustrated
Yeah.
that we can't make it work. Yeah, we're in such a stuck space, but there doesn't seem to be any capacity to move it forward in a way that would bring a lot of ease and
Yeah.
support.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I want to do a little meta commentary before I address you directly, just the meta commentary of I just want to notice how when we create some room for the mattering, the conviction, the anger, the intensity to be welcomed in as a good
Mm.
thing, not something to cringe away from or tone down or sanitize, like when we work with it, the next place you went was sad.
Hmm.
Like you were able to integrate the energy of the frustration. And then there was another layer of I'm sad, I'm heartbroken, broken. And then you also began very naturally on your own using language of we. And your mind very naturally went to what I already trust about them. I trust that they care. I
Right.
trust that their intentions are in the right place. And you began using, we are wanting this, we are wanting this. And I name that just because that self-connection that you're talking about is so integral and it's something that we skip over so quickly.
Mhm.
And when we're fielding people or listening to people who are upset and angry, we counterintuit like what we tend to do, let me say it like this, what we tend to do is we want to make the conviction go away. But when we can just relax and counterintuitively invite more of it into the space, you are already finding your own way through this. Do you notice that?
Yes, yes. And as you're speaking and reflecting, I do feel like tears coming.
Uh-huh.
That I am so sad that this has been we've been working on this legislation since 2020.
Yeah.
Our original intention was that this money that was voluntarily offered by the citizens of this state to
Hmm.
pay for this program.
Hmm.
And it breaks my heart. And so
Hmm.
I am grateful to
Hmm.
just settle into that grief
Yeah.
and to take care of me in that first. So I
Yeah.
really love that you're naming that because I do skip that step. I
Hmm.
want to go to performance and make it nice.
Hmm.
And I forget that there is wisdom. And as you've said, there's wisdom in that step-by-step process. So I really value that. I can see that.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. We need our anger and we need our outrage and we need our grief because these are all indications of what our hearts are caring about and what is and isn't working. And they also bring with them the energy we need to make the change. And when we can sit with them long enough, the wisdom we need to get to whatever the next step might be. So thank you for bringing all of that in. It gives me an opportunity to remind everyone of the importance of every single emotion. There are no bad emotions or negative emotions. We actually just want to create room for being in relationship with all of our emotions because they bring both motivational force and they alert us to what we are caring about. And I want to pick up the heartbreak and the sadness at this dream and this vision that it seems like people are working hard at, but there's something happening in the process and there's something happening in the implementation where things are getting stuck and they're not getting realized in a way that people are hoping for, especially you in this moment who I'm speaking to. Is that true?
Yeah, I really like that language that there is something happening in the implementation
Mm.
that I've spoken to staff there about, and I have a sense of it,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't exactly understand it as fully as I'd like. And because we're not acting on that lack of understanding, the implementation piece continues to fall away.
Yeah.
So I do like that languaging. And as I'm thinking about, I can imagine the reporter is going to ask me, what do you think's happening?
Mm-hmm.
And I want to be thoughtful about what was shared with me, that I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to interpret it as something that isn't the case. I don't want to use words that aren't necessarily mine to share.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the rub is for me. I know there's the work of empathy
Mm-hmm.
and in getting my own self-connection,
Mm-hmm.
but the place where I feel like I'm going to struggle is I want to be honest. This
Mm-hmm.
implementation it's not moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't want to dehumanize these individuals.
Mm-hmm.
I want to make clear that there's some confusion or some
Mm-hmm.
complexity that's happening.
Mm-hmm.
Staying self-connected, also acknowledging their humanity, while
Mm-hmm.
also saying the truth. We need better systems to implement this program. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
what they are, and I would really like to engage with them over it. And I
Love that.
have.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Even saying that, what you just said, we are bumping up against a lot of nuance and complexity with a lot of diverse people. And we're in a process of trying to understand what is needed and how to work well together and bring this to life. And this is the hard work of being in a certain kind of dialogue and working together to drive a certain kind of change. And it ends up being complex to co-create this. There are still things, there are questions that we're holding, and there are understandings that we're still developing as we move in that direction. Does that fit what comes up next, hearing it that way?
It does fit. It does
Mhm.
fit. I think that I need to let go of the something I've integrated and internalized of having it all fixed and having the perfect words and being a superhero and
Mhm.
coming in on my white horse and making magic happen. That the magic's in the mess,
Mm-hmm.
probably,
Yep.
and that I can trust that if I can slow down enough,
Yep.
I can stay self-connected enough that the words that come out of my mouth will come from a place of honesty.
Yeah.
Because when I was thinking about telling the truth, as I'm realizing it now, I was thinking about telling the truth about this program and what they're doing. Well, what about the honesty to myself about being who I want to be
Mm-hmm.
and fulfilling the values I want to fulfill? And
Mm-hmm.
so I think that's the deeper honesty that I really am hoping for
Mm-hmm.
is that I recognize I may say some things that are not going to be received with
Mm-hmm.
mm, maybe the same way I hope they would, but I also hope that they come across with some charity in terms of I'm available to
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
participate in this
Mm-hmm.
program. So
Mm-hmm.
I think what I need to let go of is just the perfect word, the word that is the lever that changes the outcome. I
Mm-hmm.
think I'm very attached to an outcome, and it feels like that's what I need to let go of.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure, but
What is
I'm
the
your
outcome
thoughts
you're
on that.
attached to?
Say again.
What is the outcome you feel like you're attached to?
I'd say first outcome is I want this newspaper article to result in forward movement in this program, that that this staff at this program
Mm-hmm.
reach back out to me and or the team as a whole. So there's a stakeholder group at whole as a whole that
Mm-hmm.
has had, unfortunately, the stakeholder group as well has had 2 to 3 years of frustration. I'm not the only person who's been frustrated. I just happen to be the only person who's had a lot of one-on-one phone calls with these
Mm-hmm.
staff members.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the outcome I really hope for is that they will turn to us and they will be open and willing to meeting and
Mm-hmm.
having conversation and
Mm-hmm.
working on systems to
Mm-hmm.
improve this process.
So if you were one of those staff people and you already know that it's not exactly where it needs to be, and there have been a lot of challenges, and you're working on this, and you were to read a newspaper article about how well you've done something, what would need to be in that newspaper article for you to feel inspired to reach out to the person who was speaking and say, I really want to work with you?
Mm. I love that flip. I really do, because I have been on that other side of
Mm-hmm.
critique, and it is painful when it's done violently
Yep.
and in a shame blame way.
Yep.
And so I'd say, I think what I would need would be an acknowledgement of what is working.
Yep.
There are things that are working in this program,
Yep.
and there has been forward progress,
Yep.
and we really applaud the work that's been done.
Yep.
Given the volume, it's a huge volume of youth who really could use this. And so that could be part of the backlog.
Yep.
And I am really excited about the idea of continuing to support this program
Yep.
in all ways possible so that we can expand it even further.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. And honestly, that's where I get a little edgy because I want to say,
Mhm.
we've said that for 3 years or 4 years and it
Mhm.
hasn't landed. It doesn't,
Yep.
it seems as if it doesn't matter how many times I have said, I will help you. I can review applications with you. I recognize it's a state process. You
Mhm.
need authorization, et cetera, et cetera.
Mhm. Mhm.
And it doesn't, it falls on deaf ears, is what it seems like. And so that's where I get stuck.
Well, I think you can talk about here's all the progress that we've made. And here's the vision that we're all committed to. And it's ended up being we've bumped up against regulations, and we've bumped up against, whatever it is, I don't know the details, against certain things that have slowed down the implementation. And while that may have been, frustrating, and I personally feel a sense of urgency to get this implemented and streamlined in the following ways, it has been a practice in going back to the table and renegotiating, in getting everybody involved, whatever it is. I don't know the exact details, but you can speak to the process of it. You can speak to the good intentions of everybody. I can imagine myself in that position saying, I personally would love to, at this point, have seen everything just get streamlined and working like a finely oiled machine. And I think all of us have that vision. And then we do bump up against real life with real humans and real systems. And we're doing a lot of learning about what pieces need to get put in place and what things we didn't know. And then you can end with some version of, and I have a lot of faith that with continued collaborative conversations and working together and trying out new things, or whatever it is that you're wanting, we will continue to make progress towards this thing that we are all wanting. And there's also room in there to say it's heartbreaking for me to see the gap between where we are right now and where we are all trying to get to. And I also have a lot of compassion for all of us about how hard it can be to get everybody pulling in the same direction when there are competing needs or competing demands or competing interests as we go. And we're still sorting out how to streamline that. Does that give you a place to, at least that's the direction to point in, that you can fill in with all the details that are actually accurate?
What I really like about that is that's the level of integrity that I'm hoping for.
Yeah.
That I put it on myself to say, I'm heartbroken,
Yep.
I'm frustrated,
Mm-hmm.
but that's not it. I'm not 100% heartbroken, frustrated, angry. I
Mm-hmm.
am also hopeful.
Mm-hmm.
And that I really appreciate the idea that together we do have this vision. I
Yep.
trust and I know because they've said it to me.
Mm-hmm.
They want this as much as I do. And
Yeah.
so I like being able to own my own feelings around that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's a grounding point for me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm heartbroken about this gap,
Mm-hmm.
but also to name it as learning as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to blaming it as faulting. You've
Right.
just not done it again.
Right.
And
Right.
that I can almost guarantee the outcome. I'm sure of the
Yes.
outcome. I'm
Yes.
absolutely sure of the outcome.
Yeah.
I know that's going to go that way. But I really like that shift to here's how I feel.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am sad. I am really heartbroken. We were so excited about this program
Mm-hmm.
almost 5 years ago when it
Mm-hmm.
was conceived.
Mm-hmm.
And we do have the capacity to move forward. We just
Yeah.
absolutely do.
Yeah.
And doing it together in the name of the young
Mm-hmm.
people we're trying to support
Mm-hmm.
and their communities. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I like that shift to owning my own feelings, being able to communicate them as a way that it's mine,
Mm-hmm.
and recognizing that we are all on the same side of the table
Yep.
looking towards something.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep. And you, I don't know if this is relevant or not, but it sounds like the heartbreak is more about the services not being delivered in the way that you would all like it to, like that you're not there yet, not heartbreak at the incompetence of everybody that I have to work with.
Exactly, exactly. It is the system that is
Yep.
heartbreaking,
Yes.
that it is a very common government approach that is just complex.
Yep.
in not all of us having the same level of capacity and communication and et cetera, et cetera. That
Beautiful.
is the heartbreak. Yeah, it's
Beautiful.
the
And
heartbreak.
then just to have a lot of empathy for the humans who are in that system, who are trying to make the changes, and then really putting the onus on like policies, procedures, the inhuman parts are really, they have been a challenge. They have slowed us down. They have been a learning for us. And then the hopeful message of, as we go through, we see a lot of ways that we could streamline, we could tweak, we could change, we could work better with, or, you know, whatever that is, so that we can bring this really important vision even more into being. And I think what you're, if I'm hearing you right, what you're going for is you're wanting the people who are working with you on this to read that article and for them to feel supported and inspired, to trust you even more, and to feel energy to continuing to close the gap between where you are now and where you could be.
Absolutely, absolutely. I know that we've had some adversarial conversations as
Mhm.
groups,
Mhm.
and they have not been successful.
Mhm.
And that's another place that's interesting for me because the stakeholder group that I work with is extraordinarily upset with the
Mhm.
statewide program, the staff there.
Mhm.
And there's also a place of honoring their frustration
Mhm. Mhm.
because, as well, I shouldn't say I don't. The interesting place I find myself is I'm the only person who was able to go to these staff members.
Mhm.
And as a whole, the groups didn't want to meet together. Well, the statewide program didn't want to meet. But I went individually to the staff and brought back to the stakeholder group some of what I heard. And they
Mhm.
were very angry about the fact it wasn't working and it wasn't moving forward.
Mhm.
And I sensed, I don't know if this is true, a bit of a frustration with me. I could be making this up, but a
Mhm.
frustration with me that I didn't blast them as well. I communicated my frustrations to them. I
Mhm.
did, but I also saw what was working.
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
I'm now recognizing there's both groups that are really frustrated. That the
Mhm.
group that really cares and is passionate as I am
Mhm.
is really frustrated, and so is the staff.
Mhm.
I want to be thoughtful about the stakeholder group as well, because that's where the integrity comes across. I want to be able to communicate
Mhm.
clearly. This
Mhm.
system isn't working.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
not working.
Mhm.
But I don't want to do it in the blame way. I don't, and
Yeah.
I'm not saying that they want to do that. I don't know that that's
Yeah.
the case, but yeah, I just realizing it's not just the statewide program. It's this other group that's very frustrated as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a tendency for people to want to form alliances and need to create an enemy and find a group to blame and then go after them. And, you know, who's to blame is often the thought process through which we try to solve this problem. The moment we move into that consciousness, I know that you know this, we kick up so much defensiveness and resistance in the system that it becomes even more entrenched. And so the skillfulness that you're bringing to this, wanting to pick up the knowing that frustration and anger and all of that is an indication of care, and bringing the care forward, and then keeping your focus on what would help. If the end game is that we need all of these people to work well together, then we really need to stay away from the blaming and shaming. And we need to keep our focus on, this is a learning and growth process where we are addressing the speed bumps as we go. We didn't know everything that we know now. We didn't see everything. We are learning as we are doing the implementation. Everybody is in here in good faith, trying to do the best that they can given the rules that they're bumping up against. And as we go, we're also looking for innovative opportunities for actually changing some of the things in the system that are no longer working for the needs of the people. And you can have a message of putting the needs of the people who are both implementing and receiving the service as the wisdom that is guiding the process. And that does take co-creative and collaborative conversations along the way so that we can see what to implement, what to keep, what to change, what to tweak, because we're all here trying to create systems that work for the people. And you can hold it as a complex problem with a lot of smart people with big hearts, and then you can still acknowledge the frustration and the challenge of that, and the emotional intelligence needed by everybody along the way to keep at it in a way where we don't turn on one another. And how this is not, this is my agenda, so I'm just going to add this for me, but you don't have to bring this in, but how this is a microcosm of the kind of work that we need on the planet right now. And we are all stepping up in ways that are part of a new kind of change. We're staying process oriented. We're staying learning oriented. We're staying people centered. We are looking at the needs of everyone along the way as we go, because we're looking for sustainable solutions here that everybody buys into and that actually meets the needs of everyone, both the people implementing and the people receiving and the people envisioning. And that's hard work given what we're emerging out of, what we're trying to leave behind. How's that landing for you?
I really appreciate the complexity, remembering the complexity of the worlds that we live in right now and how those influences are so clearly influencing us.
Mm-hmm.
And to remember that and to
Mm-hmm.
remember, I don't want us to turn on one another now when we need each other more than ever.
Yep.
And in what you're saying, and what I also hear is that I can trust that there's capacity.
Yes.
There is some level of capacity, and we are going to grow that capacity.
Mm-hmm.
But the other part that I really appreciate you're saying is pointing out that I feel the languaging coming from me and potentially from the stakeholder group is I know the way it's supposed to look,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't, and I really don't. And
Mm-hmm.
none of us know. None of
But
us know.
you can hold it like this. Here is a version of one way it could look that I'm feeling particularly attached to right now. Help me see what doesn't work about it. This is the vision that I'm attached to or that I'm invested in. And I want to think it through with you. What is it about this vision that doesn't work for you? What is it that I don't know about it? How would you improve on it? What is a thing that I'm missing in it? What does it not include that you're having a hard time not getting on board with? What is it not considering? What is it asking for that might not be possible? You can still hold it with, I'm super attached to this. Work with me. Help me learn. You don't have to pretend to not care or not be invested in something. How does that land?
Owning the frustration,
Mm-hmm.
having the anger, and using it for good to
Mm-hmm.
transform it into, so let's keep the vision in mind. And then it's a humility and a
Mm-hmm.
vulnerability that says, I don't know what's not workable about the way I see this, but
Yeah.
you're in it too, and maybe you can tell me what's not workable. Can
Yeah.
we come back together and make it workable?
Mm-hmm.
But it's the humility of recognizing I don't really know what your side of the desk looks like. I don't know what's making it hard. I can imagine it, but I want to hear from you what isn't working
Yes.
so that I can support you getting it to a place where we all want it to get to. So I really I appreciate that transformation of the anger into a
Mm-hmm.
humility of I don't really know what it looks like.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
think I do because
Mm-hmm.
that's easy,
Mm-hmm.
but that's not true.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it doesn't devalue your subjective experience. You get to say, in my corner, the way the world looks to me, it seems so clear. It looks like this. It obviously doesn't look like this to you. Help me bridge this difference. What am I not seeing that you're seeing? What am I not tuning into that you're tuning into? What assumptions am I making that maybe I need to update? It's both modeling and inviting a learning and growth frame, always, without devaluing or collapsing ourselves, right? It's still revealing with dignity where I am and inviting you to do the same. And then trusting that as we get our collective wisdom on the table, we will find something that works for all of us. Yeah.
I appreciate the invitation for them to share their frustrations because
Yes.
I really do sense they are frustrated as well
Mm-hmm.
and overwhelmed. That
Mm-hmm.
was the conversation I had with one of them is I
Mm-hmm.
think they're overwhelmed, but
Mm-hmm.
if it looks like weakness or I can't
Mm-hmm.
handle this program,
Mm-hmm.
then I'm going to cover it up because I don't want anybody to know that.
Yeah, well,
But
that's domination system programming, alive and well right there.
Do it
Yeah.
right or don't do it at all. And I know how to do
Yeah.
it right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I like the opportunity to let them feel frustrated with me. Let's see on the same side of the table
Yeah.
and swim in our frustration at the moment
Mhm.
and not be afraid of it and not
Yeah.
be afraid that we have so much conflict or so much water under the bridge that we're not going to be able to move past what's happened before.
Yeah.
That we really can come together successfully.
Yeah.
And there may be some healing work that needs to be done because
Mhm.
it was a bit of a mess when details don't matter, but they felt like they were thrown under the bus. The program felt like they were thrown under the bus
Yep.
when somebody shared something. And
Yep.
so there
And
does need to be some healing work, I think, first.
likely, and I love you naming that because I think if you're speaking to a reporter who is going to be writing something about it, the likelihood of that being repeated is high. And I would want to avoid that.
What is it that you'd want to avoid? Please share that.
The people reading the article, any of them feeling like they've been thrown under the bus,
Yeah.
that the article or the news reporter was being used as a tool for indirectly communicating something to them that actually should be communicated behind the scenes privately in a way that they can actually work with. Sometimes we'll want to deliver a message in a format that does more harm than good. The
Mm-hmm.
message is needed. We need to have a direct communication about something, but probably not publicly through an article.
Yeah, yeah. I'm getting that sense that the focus really is that we do have some challenges. We've been learning on the way. We have a lot more challenges to work through. We have a lot more learning to do together. And I'm extremely hopeful that we can come together successfully and work on those
Yep.
challenges together
Yep.
as we make this possible
Yep.
for more and more
And
young.
if I'm in that group of people who, and I'm reading this article and I'm feeling like it's personal and it's about me, I'm wanting, one of the things that would really help me is to know that you believe in me, that you
Mm,
understand that I have good intentions, that you trust in my ability to get there with you. You know, in terms of me wanting to work more with you, you could actually use this as an opportunity to build trust, to build buy-in, to build a desire to talk more instead of less.
mm. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm hopeful for. And in terms of transforming the outcome, I would really hope for is that they would be willing to identify these challenges together
Mhm,
and come
mhm,
up with solutions together
mhm,
again
mhm,
in a sense of trust. Do the
mhm,
healing work
mhm.
that doesn't belong in the on any page of any newspaper, but
Yeah,
to do that work and then also
yeah,
to come back together to
yeah,
re-envision
yeah,
what we had hoped would happen to begin with.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Good.
Hey, perfect. Oh my gosh. Thank you
Good
so
luck.
much for helping me transform that. Thank you.
You're so welcome. You're so welcome. Good,
Thank
good,
you.
good. Okay, great. Thank you.